About a week or so ago, there was this major tragedy in Stockton. It was a birthday party for this little child, and a lot of people were there to just have a nice time, to have some fun, to be together. And, again, you're saying happy birthday to someone who is just starting off in life. And you would think that nothing bad should happen there, but you know different. Of course, someone came and they sprayed the place with bullets. At least I know several children died, as well as either one or two adults. And this country has sort of like ran right over it. I mean, they gave its share for about a day or two, but you don't hear about it very much. What you do hear about are the boats being blown up by the U.S. Navy. You're still hearing about the person who had set pipe bombs for on the day that people had infiltrated the Capitol. And whatever our president says, everyone seems to follow that as the new little thing, the new bright, shiny object. But it really took me back to the times where I was growing up. Some of you may know, some of you may not know, I'm a product of South Central LA. That's where I grew up. That's where I went to elementary, middle school. I didn't go to high school there because I was bused out to a place in the valley. Some of you may have heard El Camino Real in Woodland Hills. Long trip, extremely long trip, at least an hour, if not more. And so you're getting up at 5 in the morning to leave a little around 6 o'clock in the morning. And in the fall and the winter, the days are, there's no day. It's nighttime and you're on a corner. But that was what I was talking about, really. That's not what I wanted to talk about. But what I wanted to talk about was the climate that we had in our neighborhoods, or in my neighborhood. You kept hearing about drive-by shootings, about gang members robbing, killing people. Fortunately, I didn't have to observe anyone being shot and killed, but I knew that people in my neighborhood were being that way. You would hear of in high school. Remember high school, I was going to high school out in the valley, but I was coming home to South Central LA. And by the time that I graduated from high school, it was almost common knowledge that you would have a drive-by shooting every week, at least. And someone was either going to be injured or killed, and you would hopefully that they maybe slept in or something. It's funny because one of the reasons why I love the rain so much, it doesn't happen really now, but I remember then. In my little mind, I was thinking, if it's raining, then people won't rob as much. People won't shoot as much. People won't kill as much. And so the raindrops kind of accentuated the peacefulness of the situation. So usually when it rained, I was probably the best sleep I've had on many days because, again, otherwise, because we didn't have bars on our window. So they could have robbed a house and whatever. But because of God's grace, they did not. Now, I can't tell you what God's grace is about when people do go into a house and rob it. But for us, that was good. And we were definitely grateful for it. But those were the 80s, mid-80s, still going to college, coming home. And we're still hearing about that. But if you've noticed, not much has been said unless you listen to the local news about drive-by shootings. Does it mean that there's no drive-by shootings at all? The tragedy in Stockton would let you think that it's not. And you have to understand too, Stockton is not a major city. It's a city, definitely, and it has quite a few people, but not nearly on the magnitude of, let's say, Los Angeles or Chicago or New York or whatever. But it was always the idea that because it happened so many times, people used to ignore it until things began to happen in their neighborhoods. Until people began getting shot in their neighborhoods. Until schools began to become places where you got Columbine, you have, of course, you have Sandy Hook, you have the Parkland, you know, and these are names of schools that unfortunately will live in infamy. Uvalde, you know, all of these. Whereas a person would come inside, usually a fellow student, not necessarily affiliated with the gang, but just something quite off, and just start shooting people, blowing them away. And then, of course, you had the ensuing dealings with gun control, and whether we want to abandon, we want to force people to give up their guns or whatever the case was or something. But I do remember being in that time, in the early 1980s, whereas it was a huge problem. It's funny because when I was living in that area, it didn't really matter to me that much. I figured if I kept my eyes open, I kept looking. I didn't look like I was just a easy picking, so I had a scowl on my face. I put that on my face so people won't think that I'm the easy picking person, because I didn't know how to fight. I didn't have a gun or anything like that. So I kind of figured if I looked maybe a little threatening, then maybe the people are not going to get me. Anyway, but the idea was essentially that it was happening all around my neighborhood. Friends I had, some had joined gangs, and many of them ended up in prison or dead. I remember seeing that. And it really hurt, because this was my neighborhood, and I was actually quite proud of it. But seeing people being killed, and especially innocent people, like what happened in Stockton. May Lord comfort these hearts, and it's not the Lord's fault that these people are killing people. This is part of what's happening in man. Man's heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? And you may think, well, I'm never going to do that. My child would never do that. Some of the main people are those who they feared their child would never do something like that. So understand that if you're susceptible, anything like this could happen. So I continue to think about those people in Stockton, and my heart goes out to them because of who wants to bury their children. Think about that. Who really wants to, after you've been to a birthday party of all things, and then you find out that a person is leaving a place that should be happy, and they're never coming home again. Oh, Lord God, help me. It saddens me so much. And no one is talking about it. Why? Because it's that city. It's those people. And yes, I looked at the type of people that were there, and it was as though no one really even cared. Went to the next story, on to the next thing. I mean, the shooting of Charlie Kirk is still getting much more play than the shooting in Stockton ever did. And it's not to belittle Charlie Kirk. I understand he was an icon to many people. But these are our children. And it's always the children that suffer. It's always the children that get the short end. It's always the children that people don't care about if you're of a certain persuasion. Sorry, that's a car starting up. But I just want you to think about it, not just as citizens of the United States, but if you're a saint of God, just start crying out. And we know that you're, Lord, we know that you're coming. We know that it's supposed to get worse and worse. That's what's been prophesied. Men will become worse and worse. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. We know that. But it hurts. It doesn't hurt any less. Maybe it even hurts more because we know it's going to happen. And because of the prophecy, it still hurts. That doesn't mean just because it's prophesied, doesn't mean that we can't do some things to help. Doesn't mean that we, and again, this is not talking about calling your congressman, although you can do that. Call your congressman and see what they can do, because usually that will take some time. And I'm not talking about arming everybody with guns and everything like that, because essentially then it becomes a shooting gallery. And then more people are endangered by that. But I'm talking about those who are just the simple things. I mean, maybe you have people watching outside. It's something that we have to do this at church. That we have to have people in the parking lot or people guarding the street, because you don't know what's going to happen, you know. And then none of them are armed, but they have walkie-talkies. They communicate, and they make sure that if people are going to go inside, there's a warning so people can escape much more easily. But you didn't think that you would need people outside, security guards outside, or people acting insecurity to guard against something like that. You would think that it's a birthday party. And it just reminds me of when the days when I grew up, with parties, gatherings. Maybe the gang member was looking for a particular person, and that particular person was supposed to be attending that engagement or whatever you call it. Maybe it was just someone was trying to make their bones. But in any case, it was a tragedy. And it was people that weren't even part of the gang culture, whose mothers thought that was a safe place. A time that people can laugh and talk to each other and begin things that you would be afraid to go to because you don't know. I mean, you couldn't have a party in your own neighborhood because someone was going to shoot it up. That's how bad it got. And I really am hoping that they capture the people who did this. I don't care what they are. I don't care if they're white or Latino or black or Asian. I don't care. They shot and killed kids. Now, you shouldn't kill anyone. Yeah, that's a horrible thing. But for kids that they didn't have an eye, they weren't part of the gangs. They weren't part of your beef against others. Why shoot them? I think we as saints of God, we also, God says, or Christ said, to be as harmless as doves, but as wise as serpents. We have to watch. It says, watch as well as pray. We're watching for our people. Yeah, I know that things happen, but it doesn't always have to be us. We have to think more about, this is the reality, the cold, cruel reality that we're living in. People don't think about 2 cents about killing someone 3, 4, or 5 years old, 6 years old, just starting out in life. I want you, saints, just to pray. Pray for our children. Pray for our teens, that they don't become jaded and lost to the world. Whether it's gangs, whether it's ideologies, whether it's, because again, Children are not born racist. They're made that way. And children are not born gang members. They're made that way. So for the people that lost loved ones, their children in Stockton, and all people can say is, well, Stockton is one of the most dangerous places in the U.S. Yes, it is. But that doesn't mean it has to be you. Doesn't mean it has to be me. Again, I can't, unless you want to have an armed camp. There's not much, but there is something. And after you pray, let's do something about it. Let's watch our children more closely. Let's make sure that they're our priority and not just a casualty, an innocent casualty in a bad situation. This is just a thought. A thought that I hope that everyone can understand. God bless you. May He keep you. Take care, everyone, and have a blessed day. And may the Lord protect you and put His blood to cover on you, and let His angels encamp round about you, that you get to your destination safe to meet your loved ones. God bless you.